we'd like to acknowledge that this podcast is being performed on the Toronto traditional lands of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabeg, the Huron-Wendat, and the Mississaugas of the Credit.
And we'd also like to acknowledge that this podcast is being filmed on the traditional Miami lands of the Tequesta peoples and the Miccosukee peoples. We highly encourage you to check out and learn more about these Indigenous groups. They're fascinating. Thank you very much and enjoy the podcast. Hello, all of our viewers out there. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to another episode of the Cross Continents Chats podcast, the Undisputed style. Once again, for this podcast, we'll be doing a Skip versus Shannon Undisputed style podcast. I think you can guess who's Skip and who's Shannon. So I'll be joined today by my friend and fellow co-host, Charlie Wayman, or Skip Bayless in Miami, Florida. And once again, I'm Rachel Bishop in Toronto, Canada. So let's get right to it. So once again, first topic, 10 minutes. So should the Raptors sign Fred VanVleet to a max contract when his deal expires this season? And go.
Absolutely not. The Toronto Fred VanVleet is a great player. He's amazing. He has key games. Yes, he scored 36 points against my Miami Heat. But the thing is, does he get 36 points every night? Does he get 35 points every night? Does he get 30 points every night? The answer is no, he does not. He is just not consistent enough at that high superstar level to really earn that contract. He's not LeBron. He's not Kawhi Leonard. He's not Chris Paul. He's not, well, Chris Paul's a little old now. He's not Damian Lillard, who dropped 60 points the other night. I don't think he deserves a max contract. I just don't think he's skilled enough for it, to be honest. He's a great player. I think he definitely deserves a pay raise, especially for his efforts in the NBA Finals last year. As well as his efforts this year. He definitely deserves a solid pay bump, 15, 20 mil a year, maybe. But a max contract, absolutely not. I think that's just paying him way too much money and money that could be really moved elsewhere. The Raptors are a team that are getting older, not younger. And they can really allocate some of that money to start creating of a future plan when you don't have players like Marc Gasol or Kyle Lowry. I think they can use a lot of that money to strengthen those positions particularly.
I definitely agree with you. While I do like Fred VanVleet a lot, and I think he's a really good young player. He actually had a Finals MVP vote last season, so Kawhi Leonard did not get a unanimous vote, which I thought was funny. He was very good. I don't think that he's at that level yet, as you just said. To be a max contract for someone like him who has less than 6 years in the league, it would be $25.5 million or 25% of the salary cap, whichever is higher. So I personally don't think he's worth $25.5 million per season. That's a lot of money. And as you said, that's something that only superstar players should be getting. Also, but the one good thing is that the Raptors do have a lot of money coming off the books this summer, so they could really look at it to see who they want to sign and who they want to keep. You have Marc Gasol, who's a free agent, Serge Ibaka, who's a free agent. Kyle Lowry's contract is up this summer, so they could kind of keep the team around Fred VanVleet. But if I was Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster, so the GM is Bobby Webster, obviously everyone knows Masai, I would not sign him to that contract because I would want to keep money free in 2021 to potentially go after Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Greek freak in Milwaukee, who is a free agent in 2021, who every team in the NBA is going to want to sign. So I would keep my money freed up to sign him, and I would offer Fred a lower deal. And Fred could still go to a team that needs him. Maybe Dwayne Casey will take him in Detroit. He'll be reunited with his old buddy in Detroit because they could use a player like that. But personally, if I'm the Toronto Raptors, I don't sign him because I don't think he's worth that contract.
Yeah, but there's no guarantee that Giannis Antetokounmpo would even go to Toronto. Why would he go somewhere cold? He's already somewhere cold and miserable. Why is he going to show up in Toronto? He's going to want to go to good destinations. He's going to want to go to California. He might want to go to the Warriors. He might want to go to the LA Lakers. He might go to the Clippers. He might go to freaking the Charlotte Hornets, for all we know. He might go to the New Orleans Pelicans. They're an up-and-coming team. And, the most realistic option is he might go to the Miami Heat. We are a championship organization that knows how to get the best and develop more all-around games around superstars.
You're just saying he's going to go to Miami Heat because that's what your team. That's
no,
your
but
team.
I think that Miami, from an organizational standpoint, from a classy, world-class franchise run by Pat Riley, that is a great place for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Not just the city, not just the fact it's warm, not all of that, but the fact that Miami develops players and finds new aspects of their game. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Miami's a very defensive team, even though they can shoot. They got shooters. But Antetokounmpo, all he does, his main move is drive to the net. You know what? Maybe he can become shooters. Maybe he can learn how to do threes. Maybe his defense will be even better than it already is. Frankly, Miami knows how to get the best of their players, or the best conditioned players in the NBA. Miami Heat is I think, the best destination for him. Aside from biased, it is the best destination for him.
There's not a sizable Greek population in Miami. He's going to want to go where there's a large Greek population. That's in Toronto.
Really? So what? So
we have a whole area called Greek Town.
You couldn't even keep the one guy who gave you a title.
Because we're not in California. We did everything right. We did everything right. We're just not in California.
Ontario. Why is he going to go there for Greek Town?
There's other cities in the NBA other cities in the NBA that are colder and more miserable than Toronto. For example, Boston, where he is right now. New York City is very cold.
He is not in Boston. You don't even know he's in Milwaukee.
Yeah, he's in Milwaukee, which is cold. That's what I'm saying. Boston and Milwaukee, where he is now. Two separate places I'm talking about.
No, you said Boston, where he is now.
I said Boston and where he is now.
Okay.
I know he's not in Boston. I'm not an idiot.
Somewhere warm.
He's not going to go somewhere warm. He can go home every summer and go somewhere warm.
Everybody goes somewhere warm. Miami is one of the hottest destinations.
He can go home in the summer and go. He can go home in the summer and go somewhere warm.
No. Why is he going to go to Toronto because of Greek Town? That's not going to happen.
Why would he go to Miami?
Because that is a world-class franchise.
So is Toronto.
No, it's not.
We're the defending NBA champions.
That doesn't mean they're a world-class franchise.
How are we not a world-class franchise? Masai Ujiri is one of the top executives in the NBA.
Okay, segue to hockey. Philadelphia Flyers, have they won Stanley Cups?
Yes, not since the 70s, but yes.
So they've won Stanley Cups. Are they a classy franchise?
No.
Boston Bruins, have they won Stanley Cups?
Yes.
Are they a classy franchise?
No.
Edmonton Oilers, have they won Stanley Cups?
Yes, they have.
Are they a classy franchise?
Not at the moment.
Point proven.
Explain to me how Toronto. Explain to me then.
Executive in the NBA in Pat Riley, and they know how to coach superstars and get every talented aspect of that superstar.
Okay, so then explain.
Went to Miami, and guess what? He learned how to shoot threes.
Okay, so then explain to me how Toronto is not a classy franchise. We are led by one of the top executives in the NBA who traded the heart and soul of the Toronto Raptors to get Kawhi Leonard.
Not a world-class franchise.
How are we not a world-class franchise? Explain that to me.
How are you not a world-class franchise?
Yeah. Explain that.
Okay. First of all, you just won after years and 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 years of mediocrity versus the Miami Heat, who actually have pretty much a ratio of 1 every 10 years they win a title, which is pretty good. That's actually quite good for a franchise. Also, you just won based on one player that you couldn't keep.
But we did everything in our power we could to keep him. And at the end of the day, you can't move California.
Still could not convince him.
Because you can't move California.
And you still could not convince him.
There's literally nothing more we could have done. We handled it perfectly.
Okay, so where was he before? San Antonio, Texas, the San Antonio Spurs. Warm city.
Mm-hmm.
He goes to Toronto for a year. Cold city.
Yeah, that's your point.
And then he goes to LA. Warm city.
He's also from California. That was the reason why he went to LA. He's from near LA.
It is. Warm city, cold city.
Yeah, but it was more to do the fact that his family is from there. He's from Greece.
Okay. Is Greece a place where you get Arctic weather?
No, Greece is very warm.
Greece is very warm. Now, Antetokounmpo is in Milwaukee. Is it warm or cold in Milwaukee, Wisconsin?
It's cold.
So, what is his next option based on where he's from, where he could go, whatever teams are looking to get him, which one of them is the Miami Heat. They have expressed interest in his services. They've already cleared the cap space, so they're good to go.
Every team has expressed interest in Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's the reigning MVP.
He's warm. Yeah.
But guess what? Kawhi Leonard went to California because he's from there. Giannis is not from Florida. He's got no ties to it.
And he's got no ties to Toronto either.
That may be, but there's a lot of good people in Toronto.
Miami's warm and Toronto's cold.
Well, anyways, we'd love to continue this conversation, but unfortunately we're out of time. So we have to move on now to our next segment, which is Charlie's usual segment, Sports Spectacles, where he previews the upcoming week of games. So Charlie, take it away.
Thank you very much, Rachel. This one's a pretty simple sports spectacles this week. We're going to start on Wednesday, August 19th. It's going to be NHL hockey. It is finally the first round of the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. See, I said it right this time.
Yes, you did.
On Wednesday the 19th, we're going to have another game that has to do with the two teams that were part of the fourth longest overtime in NHL playoff history, with fourth longest game in NHL playoff history, with the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Tampa Bay Lightning. I expected this series to be great because you got a mixture of a gritty team and a greasy team versus a speed team. And as you could tell with game one, it was really something. Heck, Jonas Korpisalo had 85 saves. You're never going to see that all the time, folks. And the other game that's happening on Wednesday is another really good matchup that I've been actually pretty excited about. Is the reigning champion St. Louis Blues against the Vancouver Canucks. The St. Louis Blues are they are kind of a bit of a grinder team. They've kind of underperformed a little bit recently, but the Vancouver Canucks are young, they're fast, they're exciting, and they know how to put a puck into a net. When you have players like Elias Pettersson, Brock Besser, Bo Horvat is an excellent captain as well. That is a really exciting team. And that's going to be a really interesting matchup. I think Vancouver can take it. They can take out the champs. On Thursday the 20th, we've got another set of series. We have the Dallas Stars and the Calgary Flames. While the Dallas Stars do have a better goalie in Ben Bishop, and Calgary has pretty bad instability in net, I think Calgary can take them because in the last game that I previously saw, they had Hugh Doven in net. I don't know why. I think Ben Bishop may be injured. Got to look into that a little bit more. But if there's no Ben Bishop in net, Calgary's got this series. So we'll see what happens. And then also on Thursday, we have the New York Islanders and the Washington Capitals. This one's really interesting because in Game 1, the New York Islanders beat the Washington Capitals, which really does not make any sense. But you're going to have Barry Trotz against his old team, the team that he won the Stanley Cup with. So this is really going to be an interesting, and I think it's going to be a very physical, grindy, greasy series. And Friday the 21st, we have the Philadelphia Flyers against the Montreal Canadiens. This is a really interesting matchup because somehow, by the grace of God, the Montreal Canadiens beat the Pittsburgh Penguins, which should not have happened, but hey, it did. Let's see if Carey Price can steal another series for the Montreal Canadiens, and I really hope they do. because the Flyers have no business being first place in the East. The other matchup that we're having there is the Colorado Avalanche against the Phoenix, Arizona Coyotes. That one should be better than what it actually is, but Arizona's really just haven't been able to compete. They can't skate up to speed. In the first game, they only had 14 shots, which is just absolutely abysmal, while Colorado and Nathan McKinnon and that top line absolutely dominated. So let's see if the Arizona Coyotes can actually win a game or two. And just something to add on Friday the 21st, in case anybody's interested. But we have the the UEFA Women's Champions League. So yes, there is a Champions League for women's soccer teams, and two of the matchups is Atletico Madrid women versus Barcelona women. So definitely check it out. Probably good quality soccer. You never know. You might like it. I gave it a try, and I thought it was really interesting. It was really good and really interesting, and it was quality, especially if you're looking at just the creativity. They're just as creative, and they're just as, they're just as creative and brilliant as the men. So definitely check out UEFA Champions League, Atletico Madrid, and UEFA Women's Champions League, Atletico Madrid, and Barcelona. And those are my sports spectacles for the week.
Okay, thank you very much, Charlie. I personally am quite interested in the Women's UEFA League because I, unfortunately, am remiss to admit that I did not know about Women's Champions League being on right now, and I really feel like I should have known that. So that was bad on my part. So I'm glad that you brought that up. Thank you very much for that. So now we are going to move on to our second debate topic of this Undisputed type topic. And the debate topic for this one is, I think we actually might agree on this a bit more. It could hit some buttons out there. So just letting you know, could trigger some unhappy memories for many people, Leafs fans. So this question is it's not really a question, it's more of a statement. Just how would you kind of explain, and can you characterize and possibly put into words the 53 years of sheer and utter failure by the Toronto Maple Leafs? And go.
To start this off, I want to let all the viewers know that, and if you've seen my podcast, I did not put Rachel up to this question. She picked it on her own. I had nothing to do with this. She decided to ask me this because she knows that I am not a Leafs fan. This is not me. I'm telling you now. This is not my invention. This is not my idea. Well, at this point, with the Leafs' disappointment year after year, and a bunch of great players that ended up coming and going because they give up, good coaches coming and going, bad trades, bad drafting, bad trading of draft picks that could have been players like Tuukka Rask and Brendan Gallagher and
Roberto Luongo.
Roberto Luongo. It's just sad at this point. And I don't understand what it is with this franchise. They seem like under Brendan Shanahan, they are going in a great direction, and they still are, in my opinion. But since Matthews has been drafted, they ended up loading up the team with Mitch Marner, with William Nylander, with John Tavares, with, Jason Spezza, who's still good in a limited role. They even had Patrick Marleau for a while, who was still solid for the Leafs. They shored up defense. You have Morgan Riley. You have Jake Gardner, which it sucks that he left because he should have definitely stayed. I think the defense would have been better with him there. They got a great offensive defenseman in Tyson Barrie. They have a solid goaltender in net, Frederik Andersen. And with the team that it has and the talent and the speed and the scoring ability, what's wrong? I can't find a lot of things wrong with that team, other than, of course, there was the Mike Babcock saga and all that stuff. But Sheldon Keefe's done a good job. He's playing Nylander properly. I don't get it. I really think that after this one, the organization really needs to take a hard look, and they're going to have to make some changes, whether it's Kyle Dubas, because Kyle Dubas, in my opinion, has been a hit or miss general manager, or somebody in the front office that we don't even know that might just have been he's been a Leafs organizational, he's been with the Leafs organization for 20 years, but he might be the nicest guy in the world, but maybe his influence isn't great. I really don't know, but something in the management or in the coaching has got to change, because all of these new things, all of these weapons, all of these pieces, all of these talented players are getting wasted in their primes because something, whatever it is, something on that team causes them to give up 4-1 leads, to lose in the worst possible way. Like the Leafs should have been able to get into the playoffs. They've been a playoff team for the last, 4 years, 5 years?
4 years, yeah.
4 years? I don't get it. I really don't. They could take out the Columbus Blue Jackets. I know the Blue Jackets are a playoff team as well, but I just don't understand. And I think it's definitely going to have to be management and coaching or something, whether it's Kyle Dubas or some assistant coach that's been there for ages. I don't really know, but something's got to change because they're just doing exactly the same thing that they've been doing for the last at least 20 years.
For me, definitely something has to change, because definition of insanity is doing the same thing over again and expecting results. And they've done this. They fired Babcock, and they should have fired him after the playoffs last season. They really didn't fire him soon enough. But we did see significant changes, especially with Tyson Barrie once they brought in Sheldon Keefe. But other than that, they haven't done much. You re-signed Kyle Clifford, great. That wasn't really necessary, and that doesn't seem like a player Kyle Dubas would like. They re-signed some minor fringe guys in the Marlies who aren't particularly great. Brought in Jason Spezza, which was huge, but to me, basically, they haven't really addressed the issues over the past 3 years. I guess technically it's only been 3 years since they made playoffs, since they didn't make it this year. And the main issues is really, after Morgan Riley and Jake Muzzin, you don't have two top left defensemen on the left side. You have Morgan Riley, and then you have Jake Muzzin, but you're still missing 2 more top 4 D-men, which they have kids, but at this point, who knows? They're probably not ready yet. Travis Dermott, I don't think is there yet. Rasmus Sandin's still really young. Martin Marinchin's definitely not there. Justin Hall is a fringe guy. He should not be really in your lineup. I think he's an extra defenseman. Timothy Liljegren, who knows what's going to happen to him? He hasn't really panned out yet, but he's still young. And then you have some young guys in the KHL who, again, we don't know how they're gonna pan out. So really, your defense is still the main issue. You don't have a backup goalie, and that's been an issue for the past 2 seasons now. Curtis McElhinney somehow turned back the clock and was absolutely outstanding. And ever since he's left and they let Curtis McElhinney go and decided to re-sign Garrett Sparks, which was a Kyle Dubas decision, which was absolutely horrendous one, by the way, they have been in backup goaltender trouble. They have Jack Campbell now, who seems solid, but Frederick Anderson's going into the last year of his contract. He's been bad every single elimination game he's played for the Leafs. They're probably not going to re-sign him because he's old. He's not going to be on the wrong side of 30. Your young kids aren't ready yet. You still have to bring in another goalie. They should have gone after Alexander Georgiev when they had the chance, which is someone who they need, who's on the chopping block of the Rangers potentially. You have to address that. You have to address your fourth line. Jason Spezza should be your fourth line center, but for some reason he wasn't playing properly on the fourth line. They have to address. I don't think they need a lot of big issues. Like, I agree with Kyle Dubas and that the core I think is really good, but they need to address a lot of those depth issues. And honestly, even though I love Mitch Marner as a player, I hated his contract from day one. I said his contract is going to handicap the Leafs, and especially now that we know it's a flat salary cap, it's not going up in the next 2 seasons at least because of COVID. I firmly believe his contract prevented the team from getting the defenseman that they need. And no one's going to want an $11 million contract for Mitch Marner because, similar to Fred VanVleet in an earlier conversation, he is not that good. That is game breaker, Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid, Evgeny Malkin, Nathan McKinnon type money. He's not in the same name as any of those players. So to me, that's a big issue. But just going back further to the Leafs, I mean, I agree with you. I don't really know what to pinpoint it. Maybe you look at top. Maybe the Shanna plan has been more like a Shanna fail because it hasn't worked out at this point. But I think it's just a microcosm of just bad things, bad luck happening to the Leafs. We get Austin Matthews first overall. We should have won already by this point, but we haven't won. It's still the same old, same old. The Leafs haven't won a playoff round since 2004. I was 9 years old. Matt Sundin was still playing in the league. Dan Alfredson still had an afro playing for the Senators. Lizzie McGuire was just ending on the air. This is how long ago that happened, okay? Like, Avril Lavigne was still young at that point, still being her rock star self with her album. Like, this is how long they've won. And for the longest time, it was, we need to get a winger for Matt Sundin. He never had wingers. Then Phil Kessel came along. He never had a center. Now it's Austin Matthews, and he's going to have a defenseman and a goalie and all this stuff. And then, you had Harold Ballard who didn't want to spend any money before Matt Sundin. And it's not a surprise that players don't want to sign in Toronto. John Tavares really is the only notable free agent who signed in Toronto because he's from Toronto. It's his boyhood team. He's from Mississauga. But no one wants to sign for the Leafs because it's just 50 years of mediocrity at this point. And it's just, honestly, I wasn't even disappointed that they lost because I just expected at this point. Leafs fans are so accustomed to just failure. They just expect losing at this point. And if they would have won, I would have been shocked. So it's just
but you also, I have to bring this up. I really do. The Leafs right now have a way better team than their rival, the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, they do. On paper, they do. On paper.
And somehow the Montreal Canadiens make it past the Pittsburgh Penguins, which is Rachel's team, by the way.
Yep.
And make it to the playoffs instead of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, this stuff is like fairy tale.
Games are won on paper, Charlie.
A bad season, they go farther than the good, effective, talented Toronto Maple Leafs.
The Leafs are a paper tiger.
You can't make this up, folks.
The Leafs are a paper tiger, and the Habs had Carey Price playing up to his Carey Price self. The Leafs, Korpisalo was good, but he wasn't outstanding, and they just didn't show up in the last game. Sheldon Keefe was outcoached by a veteran coach in John Tortorella, who's won a Stanley Cup. Frederick Anderson was outplayed, and Carey Price outplayed the goalies in Pittsburgh. And also Montreal, I think, is a very well-coached team. I hate to admit it, but they're a very well-coached team.
Well, they're definitely scrappy, but yeah, I don't know. Toronto needs to get it together because this is just crazy. You're going to be wasting all these players, and then eventually all these players are going to want to leave.
Yeah.
They're going to say, you know what? Screw this city. I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm going to go other places.
Just before we wrap up here, Matt Sundin was the one player in Toronto who didn't want to leave, despite the fact that they were average with him. They were good, but they were average. And then when he finally does leave, he is run out of town and absolutely and they try to force him out of town because he doesn't want to leave. So then he finally leaves because they basically forced him to leave. And the way he was treated at the end was just absolutely atrocious. And I'm glad he came back. I'm glad that he got a standing ovation when he came back and scored the winning goal against the Leafs. But it's just stuff like that is a reason why people don't want to sign here, because you treated your best player in history with that attitude. And it's not a surprise.
Hey, a lot of players, a player who recently got the exact same Leafs treatment was James Reimer.
Yeah.
And another player who is actually getting that treatment right now as we speak is Mitch Marner.
Yeah, he is.
He's been getting torn apart and insulted and everything else to the point where Kyle Dubas goes, I don't get why the fans of this franchise are doing this. And they're absolutely tearing that kid apart because he wasn't amazing. And they're tearing that kid apart, and guess what's going to happen? They keep going. Now that Leafs fans, in my opinion, have latched on to a player to insult, he's going to want to leave. No, he won't be able to leave because of that horrible contract. And, well, it's going to be more drama. It'd be interesting to see the Toronto Maple Leafs have a season without drama.
Yeah,
because there always is in
I
Toronto.
don't think that could ever happen because it's Toronto and it's the media center of hockey. But anyways, that's just we could talk about this till the cows come home, but we got to move on because we're already over time here. So we're gonna now move on to the final segment, which is the marketplace. Well, it's final segment before trivia. And so the marketplace is where I discuss kind of transfers and signings and what have yous that are going on in the sports world. So there's been some interesting moves today. So while we're sticking on the topic of hockey, and yes, Charlie brought up the Pittsburgh Penguins, which was my number one team, even though I am a Leafs fan. Initially, Penguins are my number one team. The Pittsburgh Penguins did something very interesting. So they lost, as we know, to the Montreal Canadiens. And instead of doing the thing that they actually should have done, which was fire Jack Johnson into the sun, or actually fire Max Sullivan, they decided to fire his 3 assistant coaches. Mark Recchi, who ran the power play, which was atrocious after Phil Kessel left, Sergei Gonchar, who was actually quite good for the defensive coach, and your favorite Jacques Martin, who'd been with the team since 2013, who's actually a holdover from the Dan Bylsma era. So they fired the assistant coaches instead of actually firing the head coach and taking accountability for Jim Rutherford, taking accountability for signing Jack Johnson. Now, to me, I don't really see what this does at all. Great, you're taking away Sullivan's option to have his own assistant coaches, but to me, it just seems like a very odd choice, and it's trying to do something without actually doing the thing they should have done. Something else then now related to coaches, moving on to a different sport. Brad Stevens, who is the head coach of the Boston Celtics, who is 43, and he's done a very good job with that team. He was just re-signed to a multi-year deal in Boston, and he's really, as I said, he's done a great job. They have a really good roster, and so we'll see if he can actually deliver them a championship. But in the regular season, they always seem to do a good job. So that will be interesting because I think they're playing the Philadelphia 76ers in the first round, which will be a really juicy matchup. So he was just re-signed, which I thought was a good signing by them. And kind of the last thing here that I have, which I thought was very interesting, was the president of the New York Rangers, John Davidson, said that he had a personal meeting with Henrik Lundqvist. Of course, Henrik Lundqvist is the king in New York, and basically the personal meeting means that Henrik Lundqvist's time in New York could come to an end, which just really breaks my heart because he is a Rangers legend. And he's been there for 15 seasons. He's only won 1 Vezina, but he's been a finalist 5 times. He took them all the way to the Stanley Cup final. He can never deliver them the chalice, but he really deserves to win a cup. He's one of the greatest goalies of all time. And to see him and possibly him have play his last game in a Rangers uniform just makes me really sad. And when I read that today, and that it could mean that his time in New York is up, I definitely got a little bit emotional there. So that's really all I have for the marketplace for this week. So, yeah.
If I could add one more thing to the marketplace.
Sure.
I know I steal your thunder.
Sure.
But, well, Liverpool fans, they finally shored up left back. So if Andy Robertson gets hurt, well, we got a backup.
Oh, I forgot about this. Thank you for reminding me.
Kostas Tsimikas from Olympiacos to replace Andy Robertson. He is basically a Greek Andy Robertson. So, and he is actually young, and he still has an ability to improve. So finally, Jurgen Klopp has answered the prayers of Liverpool fans and found up a way to shore up defense. Kostas Tsimikas, the deal was for 13 million euros. This is a really exciting thing, and it's going to be very exciting to see how he plays next season in a month.
I'm glad you brought that up because I totally forgot about that signing. But yeah, he scored 8 goals last season as a defender, which is quite good in soccer. And as you just mentioned, Andy Robertson, they didn't have an adequate replacement for him this season. And so now that the guys who replaced him, they're gone, this guy will give him a really good, I think it'll be some nice competition, and they'll have someone who can replace them when Robertson's not playing or when he comes off. So thank you for bringing that up because I totally forgot about it. And I love Greece, so it's nice to see some Greek representation in Liverpool as well. Moving on now to our final segment here. It's trivia time. So last week I was on the hot seat for the first time. This week, and I did okay. I got 1.5 right. This week, Charlie's back in the hot seat, and I'm going to quiz him. I try to make the questions somewhat easier. So we'll see how many you get right this time, Charlie. I hope you've brushed up on your trivia skills.
Oh, boy. This is going to be rough. All right.
And
go for it.
they're from all different sports, just so you know. So that should be interesting as well.
It's going to be sports I don't even know. This is
No, you know them. All right, so the first one is the NBA. So we've talked a lot about the NBA today. So the NBA awards finalists for all the awards were just announced today. Today being Saturday, August 8th. So who is the last and to this day only NBA player to receive a unanimous MVP selection?
The last and only NBA player to receive a unanimous MVP selection.
Yeah. Like, he got every single vote for MVP.
Was it James Harden?
No, it was not. Steph Curry.
Oh, okay,
The 2017 Golden State Warriors that won 72 games, a record-breaking 72 games. He was the only player to receive every single MVP vote.
Oh, okay.
So that's something that's quite interesting, I find. And, of course, Toronto Raptors fans are very familiar with Golden State Warriors and Steph Curry. Question number 2 is, speaking of records, who is the only NHL goalie in history to win 2 Hart trophies?
The only goaltender in NHL history to win 2 Hart trophies?
Mm-hmm.
Marty Brodeur.
No, he has not won 2 Hart trophies. He's not won a single Hart trophy. I'm surprised you don't know this. We've talked about this goalie a lot. This is the first time you beat me in hockey. Dominik Hasek.
Oh, okay. Cool.
He won in 1997 and again in 1998. Back-to-back Hart trophies as a goaltender. Never been done.
Cool.
Third question, going on to some soccer now. Who is the first English player to win league titles in 4 different countries? And bonus points if you can name the countries.
First player to win league titles in 4 different countries.
English soccer player.
He's from England.
Yes, England.
David Beckham.
That's right.
England, obviously, with Manchester United.
Yep.
Spain with Real Madrid.
Yep.
France with PSG.
Yep.
And, I'm blanking on it.
He's involved in this right now,
Yeah, LA Galaxy MLS.
That's right. There you go. You got them all right. Good job. That one is pretty easy. All right. Moving on now. Let's see.
When you said English player, it's like, okay, there's only one that I know of.
Yeah, exactly. That was a pretty easy one. All right. Moving. I thought I'd give you.
Like to go outbound, so.
I thought I'd give you a nice layup. So, continuing on now to a different sport. This is some football for you. What is the oldest NFL franchise in continuous operation in the same location?
Oldest franchise in the operation in the same location.
Yeah, like same city.
Same city, not like same venue, like same city.
Yeah, I think same city, yeah.
Same city?
I assume so, yeah.
Wow. That's a great question.
That is a good question.
That's a very good question. I would say the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, that's right. This is your best one today. There you go. Do you know when they were founded?
I do not know, but they are the first 2 winners of the Super Bowl.
Oh, okay. Well, they were founded
61 and 62, I believe.
They were founded in 1919, and they joined the NFL in 1921.
Cool.
So, Green Bay Packers, pretty neat. Well-run team. All right, number 5. Again, I like my pop culture and sports questions. This is another pop culture sports question for you. This one it just happened, so I'm hoping you get this. What Hollywood actor was just part of a group that purchased the XFL?
Oh, that's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Yeah, there you go. How much did he purchase it for?
It's like $15 million.
$15 million.
Johnson was an ex-Miami Hurricane who's on the championship 90s Miami Hurricanes. So he's all about the U.
He purchased it with a group that included his ex-wife, Danny Garcia. They're actually business partners, which I think is kind of cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, she's his manager, which I thought was neat that they still have a good relationship. So, and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, for those of you who don't know, he's a worldwide entertainment legend, a wrestling legend. He's also a former football player. And why is that significant? Well, the person who he bought the league from, who just went bankrupt, is Vince McMahon, who founds and owns the WWE. Well, that's it for that podcast today. As you can see, there's a lot of banter. Once again, I've been Rachel Bishop in Toronto, Ontario, joined by my friend and colleague, Charlie Wayman in Miami, Florida. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week for hopefully our next version of this podcast. See you then.